Hello, American Go Association. I'm Chris Garlick, managing editor of the AGA e-Journal, joined once again by Michael Redmond, 9-Dan professional. Today, Michael will be reviewing one of his own games, a game he played against Mizokami 9P in the Kisei First Tournament. As always, before we get started, I want to thank all our AGA members. If you'd like to support this content as well, please consider joining the American Go Association at usgo.org. So, Michael, another human-human game. We're excited. This is, that last one was a ton of fun. So tell me, before we get started, the Kisei First Tournament, what is that?
Well, this is the first section of the Kisei tournament. So most of the players play in it. And it's an elimination tournament, so you have to win all the games. And there's about 5 rounds. So this game is, I think we might have done a game from the Kisei First Tournament already.
Okay.
But this is the 4th round. So I'm getting pretty close to the final of this. And what happens after the first tournament is that you get into a league, which is called the C League. It's pretty down, but you're already in the top 60 players in Japan, I suppose, if you're in the C League. And this is a league that has about 32 players, and you play 5 rounds in that. So, and in this league, if you lose 3 games, then you're wiped out. But if you win 3 games, then you're going to stay in the C League. And like if you win 4 games out of 5, then you're going to be promoted to the B League.
And how often are the games?
I think they play about 1 game a month once the league gets started.
Okay. And what should we be looking for in this game? And what can you tell us about Mizokami? Because I'm not so familiar.
Well, he's a very tenacious, steady player. And he's a player I've had no success against earlier. So I usually play a much more aggressive style. I think I'm sort of changing that, and my new style is, in this game, it's working a lot better against him. So this game against him is giving me the feeling that I'm changing to the better, basically. So it's a different type of game that I'm used to playing.
Very cheery to see that.
Yeah. And so I have the white stones. And I experiment with the 3-3 point. And part of this is that this was on the 25th of January this year, in 2018. And I was still struggling with those 3-3 invasions. A lot of players are liking to play against me. And so I didn't really have a good solution for that. So I played the 3-3 point to start with. So there's no way Black's going to get into the 3-3 in this corner.
All right, way to forestall it.
Yeah. And so I play and you can see I'm playing a 3-4 point now. So I'm really, it's not that I think that invading the start point at the 3-3 point is good, but I just didn't have a plan for it at this point.
Right.
So I was avoiding that by playing different moves in the corner.
So
and of course, it's more difficult when you have the white stones.
Right.
Like with Black, in my previous game with Black, I was playing a start point because I wasn't so worried about that kind of thing when I had the black stones.
Right.
And so you can see Mizokami plays he starts out with a fairly tight style. This is just the way he plays. And it makes it hard to get into a big fight, which is what I used to like to do. And so you can see Black is playing sort of AlphaGo-like move here. Although it could have been okay for Black to play a Kakari in the upper left corner too. But this knight move is a move that AlphaGo likes. Like we see a lot of this knight's move in the self-played games.
Quick question, and I think we've talked about this a little bit before, but it's good to get a refresher. So, I mean, one of the things that we saw in the AlphaGo games is that, it doesn't. I mean, I think you said that it likes certain moves, but it just really adjusts its game a lot, right? But with it, you were just talking about Mizokami has a particular way of playing, this tight style. So he's not going to switch halfway through, right? I mean, he's
sort of into the AlphaGo moves, though.
Okay.
He's studying up in AlphaGo, and I was watching some of his games, and he does play the AlphaGo moves. So
Okay.
he's trying to change. He's still a fairly young man, I think, and so he has the. It's easier maybe for him to change too.
Mm-hmm.
But I did put two marks for the other moves that I would be thinking of. I would be more likely to play a pincer at A or a Kahari at B in this position. But of course, the nice move is a move that AlphaGo plays a lot. Like it was playing this nice move in most of the games where it gets into this position in the lower right corner. And so I extended. This again is a very human move. I didn't really think very deeply about this move, but looking at the game later, nowadays I'm always thinking, now what would AlphaGo do? What would an AI do? And I'm pretty sure AlphaGo would play the high extension at A if AlphaGo played a move towards the lower side. AlphaGo doesn't really like to play that extension on the third line. Otherwise, it could have played the Shimari at B. So one of those two would be a more AlphaGo-like move. This low extension is something that humans would play something like 90%, I think, but I get the feeling that it wouldn't be played by AlphaGo. But that said, so if I was given I'm not really thinking that this gave me a disadvantage, but if I was given another chance, I would have tried I would try one of the other moves.
Right.
Just an experiment. And so black plays the Kakari, and I pincer. And this is this Taisha, the Taisha Joseki here, is getting popular recently.
Interesting.
It's getting to be popular, and again, it's because it's being played by some of the AIs that are now as strong as top pros. So there's a number of AIs like AlphaGo. There's a new one called AQ. There's Fine Art in China, and there's a strong. I think it's Korean, and there's one in Taiwan too. So all these AIs and AQ and AlphaGo, I mean AQ and Deep Zen are actually playing a lot of games on Go servers against humans, and so Fine Art also is playing games against humans on servers.
These are, as you said, these are pro level AIs.
Well, Fine Art is actually giving handicaps to pros, so it's
wow.
So that doesn't really help us in our study of even games, actually, but it's really strong. And people are getting affected. The way people play is changing because of that.
Yeah, and are these? Do they show what the AI is, thinking? Can you look at the hotspots and so forth?
Well, not usually. Like AQ at this point, I don't think it is enabled to show that. Zen, if you get the program, there's a game actually that you can buy on the internet. So if you get the program, then it will. And there's a study mode in which it will show you the percentages. And it can play demonstration games, of course, against itself. And then Fine Art actually, I think it's the Fox server on the internet, where it can sometimes do commentaries for the games. Like there's humans doing the commentaries, but there's, I think some of those diagrams that have value scores attached to them are actually done by Fine Art. And then there's a human player trying to give some meaning to that, to add some comments to that. But the Fine Art is actually giving a number value to the position after it makes a diagram.
Right, because that's something you've been interested in for a long, way back.
Well, that's why I want to have AlphaGo to come live in my computer, because then I'd be able to ask questions. And there's a great difference in accessibility when it's on the net and not really responding to questions like that. It's not capable of responding to questions that I might have.
Right.
To get back to the game, so this is something that some of the AIs like to play. And when white plays here, of course, black can wedge also, but it's more common nowadays for black to play this. And there's a ladder involved. So did I put the variation? Like if white plays here, there's a ladder when black pushes through and cuts. And the ladder when black plays at B next. And this ladder happens to favor black.
Sure.
And so when that ladder favors black, this is not very good. It's not going to be good for white. Like I could go into variations, and it gets really complicated actually. So I'm not going to. But
no, we'll skip that.
Most of the variations are not good for white. Right. So white pushes here. So actually, white had two choices. White had the choice of the game move, which is this one, or to play a bamboo joint, in which case you can expect something like this. And this is probably about an even result. But I chose to push on the top, and black pushed through and cut. And so black's going to get the corner, and white has captured a stone on the outside. White doesn't have very much territory, but I got Sente to play this big move, which is nice. A move that I was sort of aiming at. And also there's this cutting point here, which it sort of depends on a ladder too, but in some cases this cutting point, cutting here will be an effective move in some cases. In fact, I actually played it later in the game. But A here is a very important point that it starts to attack the black group in the lower right corner. But of course, playing here when white has this move at C is kind of a vital point to reduce white's moyo. When white has a 3-3 point and two extensions at A and B, then it's sort of a standard procedure to play at C to reduce the moyo. Sort of like if white had a stone at C, black would be jumping into the 3-3 point. Right. They're interchangeable points almost. And black jumps. And so far in this game, we're seeing Mizokami playing a lot of moves that are sort of borrowed from AIs. They're moves that AIs like to play. So you can see just from, I'll mark a number of moves. Like there's, after playing the shoulder hit in the corner, this jump here is the most popular move for AIs to play. And the Taisha Joseki here, and this knight's move. And the way black handled that whole Joseki in the upper left corner. All of these are moves that are things that we've been learning from AIs, and the people who are interested in the way AIs play are likely to start to try on you. So just from this one game and these moves in the opening, I could see that he's really into the AI thing.
It's kind of exciting, isn't it, to see this in the pro play?
Oh yeah, it's not as if any of these moves are brand new, like they weren't invented by the AI. You could say that since the AI are not copying humans, maybe they were reinvented by the AIs. But these are all moves that have been around, but not as popular as they are now after the AIs have started to play them.
So we've talked about this before, but it's almost as though you guys get to see them with new eyes. They're,
Oh yes, yes. And of course, it's very valuable that an AI like AlphaGo or DeepZen or FineArt will be, most of the AIs are able to give values to positions or to moves. And the positional judgment is very good. And so it's something that we can trust to a certain degree. And so that means that we have a better idea whether or not a move is working. So to get back to the game, I played this move, which is the follow-up move that I was looking at when I played this extension here. So this move is going to take away black's base. And so black has to pull back. Like if black extends down in the corner, I can cut black off. So this would be bad for black. It would be a bit painful. Black can live in the corner, but black's going to be in trouble in the center now. So this would be good for white. So this is sort of forced. Black pulls back, and white gets to take away the corner. And so this is taking away black's base. It also is valuable in that it has strengthened this white group here, which was this was an extension that black could have invaded later in the game. So by making eyes in the corner, white has strengthened that position. And black moves out, and so I get to play on the right side too. So white is gaining territory while creating a relatively weak black group. It's not as if black can still make eyes if black plays first on the right side. Like if black plays a move here, for instance, black would be able to make a life. But of course, that group, this group over here is also not alive. So there's these black groups that are not completely alive, And relatively speaking, the white groups on the upper side, this white group and this white group, are relatively have greater potential to make territory or a living position. So on the whole right side of the board, white's relatively strong and is in a position where there's potential to attack.
But just to that point, and I'm just thinking, because we'd looked at the zero games, and the self-played games. I mean, and even pros normally don't worry so much about being alive, right? I mean, it's just, and certainly from an amateur standpoint, it's like where are the eyes is nowhere. Oh, we don't need to worry about that. So, is that changing some now? Are pros, even less worried about eyes?
Well, the only honest answer to that is that it all depends because. For instance, in this game, both of the black groups that I was talking about are sort of out into the center. So they're not in any immediate danger.
Right.
And that white stone, I'll just unmark it now. That white stone on the upper side, this one that I've just taken the mark off, although I'm saying it has potential to make eyes on the side, at this point it's not alive yet. So these are all things that there's a tendency for white to have a possibility to an attack, but that can all change. It's not very solid advantage in all. But white does have a nice territory in the lower right area and the upper right area. So white does seem to have potential to take a lead in territory. But to answer your question in more general terms, I do think that since AIs are slightly more interested in making an immediate life. They have a stronger bias towards actually making eye space compared to humans. There is a tendency to lean in that direction a little bit more than before.
Interesting. Okay.
So black starts to attack on the left side. This is a really important point to get back to the game, And so we have this nice little black territory in the upper left corner. And probably the lower left corner is going to be black territory too. So black has some territory, but we don't know what's going to happen on the left side because I'm about to invade anyway. So white actually, there's a lot of weak groups in this game because I've marked the 6 weak groups. There's 3 black groups and 3 white groups that are not settled. But this invasion that I've just played is really an important move because for the left side, white is aiming to play a follow-up move at A, which will do fairly well to settle that white group. And we're going to see that later in a variation. And it turns out I'm also trying to set up the cut at B, and we're going to see how that happens too. So I'm trying to settle all my problems. It looks like I'm making it more difficult for myself by creating one more weak group.
Yeah, it does.
But actually, I'm going to try to use this stone to settle my other 2 weak groups. It didn't really work out that way. It got a bit more complicated, but
it's a good plan.
Yeah, I had a plan there. So naturally, my opponent plays here to cut me off. And the point is, I got this pushing move, which is going to make a difference to the cut here. And what I'm talking about is this variation I'm going to show you. This isn't what he actually did, but if black can actually play here to capture white's cutting stone. And this depends on the ladder, of course, but as I said earlier in the game, the ladder favors black. But white's going to cut anyway. And the ladder favors black. The ladder B favors black, but I can squeeze this way. And although it doesn't look all that pretty, this squeeze is actually pretty effective because all of my stones are fairly well connected up. And I'm starting to lean on that black group on the left side. Like its exit out into the center is getting smaller. And I actually ended up with a kind of a wall facing black on the right side. So this is a pretty good result. Although I've lost some territory on the upper side, this is going to be a good result for white. So this is what I was aiming at with the cut here. And you can see that this stone here is what made that squeeze possible. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. So that was part of the plan here when I was doing this stuff and pushing here, so as to make this actually work as a squeeze instead. Otherwise, there would be no way for me to squeeze that black.
Sure.
So black just extends. So this is where he starts to attack very strongly. And so I connect underneath, and black jumps. So black is trying to attack both the left side and the upper side. But for the time being, my upper side group is starting to get some eye space. So I'm not really that worried. So I jump out once. And now my upper side is completely alive.
Yep.
And so black surrounds me in the center. But again, I have enough room to make a life. So I play once here, and then I play the nice move here.
Yep.
But you can see there's actually a lot of hidden reading here. It was this part of the game was actually quite time consuming. There was a lot of reading I had to do, all sorts of variations. Like for instance, if black plays here, then I can connect and cut here. But in order to have that work, I had to have this exchange in first. So the order of moves here is very important. Like if I had played the knight's move first, let's just make another variation. If I had played the knight's move at this point, and then played the hane, then, sorry, didn't mean to do that. Then maybe black could have played this way, and it would have been a different fight. Because then black would be able to cut me off this way.
Wow.
And so, I had to be very careful about the order of moves, especially since my group, if I make one mistake here, it's going to die.
Yeah. It's definitely edge of the seat stuff. Wow.
Yeah. So black cuts here, I pull back. So you can see I've made an eye here. I'll mark the point where I think I've made an eye. This point is going to be an eye. And I have a potential eye here. And black extends. And I play a hane here. So if black cuts, then I'm going to play an Atari. And I still have that eye. I still have an eye at that point. So I can play here, and I have two eyes. So I have an eye here and an eye here. And because of that Atari at B, then black's shape on the outside is not so good.
Right.
So from here on, I'll have potential to attack black. So that was my plan. And so black extends. So this is where I lost an opportunity to pull ahead in territory, because I think up to this point, the way I've handled the fight in the upper left area has been fairly good.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
I'm one step away from making a life on the left side. And what I did in the game, I'll show you what I did in the game, is I put an extra stone in. So this was a thick move. It was a safe move, but it wasn't the best move, because I should have played this move now.
I was just wondering if you could help out that stone on the left, but
now it's relatively easy for me to make a life on the left side. Like if black continues like this, I can just play this stuff, and I'm alive. Like this is just one of the variations, but there's no way that black can really effectively attack me on the left. And if we look at white's group here, for black to play at A is a kind of it's a stupid looking move. It's it's a 1 point move sort of.
Right.
And white can escape with B. So it's not as if this group is going to immediately die. Black's going to be able to attack a little bit, but with the white group on the right side, it's not going to die immediately. So there's really no group that black can attack at the same time as this center group. So it's going to be difficult for black to catch up in territory. White has a solid lead in territory at this point. Like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 reasonably big white territories. There's one in the upper right corner, one on the lower side, the upper side, and then the left side. So white has all of these territories that are in the vicinity of 10 points. And for instance, the lower side and the upper right corner are bigger than 10 points. And so white has more than 40 points of territory, and black just has the upper left corner and the lower left corner, sorry. So it's just those 2 corners black has that add up to about 20 points.
Well, so 2 things. One is I think your camera shifted up a little bit, so it needs to adjust down. There you go. I think you got excited when you were showing this. But the other thing is that you were talking about, and I've said several times that you think about what would AlphaGo do, and I think clearly AlphaGo, once that group has got either can run away or can live, AlphaGo would definitely play away, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was a big chance I lost, and because of what I did. What I did was I added a move to the white group, and this allowed black to play an extra stone here and virtually make territory and move. This put a lot of pressure on me for the rest of the game, because after this point, I'm going to be trying to catch up in territory.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not as if the game is completely lost, but it's going to be a difficult game for white after this, and I had a lot of trouble catching up. I have potential to attack, so that's the plan here.
Mm-hmm.
Because after I'm alive here, now I can play more aggressively in the center. I played one peep here, and then I played here, so I don't have to bother with the connection now.
Right.
So there's an advantage there. I can play very efficient moves and aggressive moves in the center because of the fact that I already have two eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't really make up for the fact that black's getting a lot of territory on the left side.
That's a ton.
So black continues, and actually for the time being, there's a lot of bad Aji on the left side. So when I play here, black, it's sort of mandatory for black to continue to surround the left side with this sequence. So this is sort of a forced sequence where white is getting some extra strength in the center, and now black has completely killed that marked stone.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of territory.
Yes. Wow.
It's about 40 points. So now black has more than 50 points. And like I was saying, white has something in the vicinity of 40 points.
Mm.
So, and obviously white has to do some catching up, because if black, let's just add a mark to the board, there's a point here. If black gets to play here, that's going to add a lot of territory to black's territory also. So black has a big move.
So you question, when did you realize that you had missed that? Was it right away, or was it only later in the analysis?
I was thinking the game, I wasn't so pessimistic about this position, actually.
Uh-huh.
But when I look at it now, when I looked at it after the game, I actually had trouble finding a winning sequence for white. So I think at this point, my judgment now is that black should be able to win the game.
Right.
But at the time of the game, I was thinking it was at least an even. I was probably a bit optimistic, actually. I thought that I could attack black and catch up in territory. But I don't think I was correct in that.
Okay.
So I start by taking away black's eye space here. This is the point where black would play if black was trying to make a life.
All right.
Black trolls here. And this move in itself is not going to make a life. But it, in the process of trying to make an eye there, like if white just leaves it, black's going to be able to live. Mm-hmm. So in the process of threatening to make a life in the corner, black is also taking away the eyes from that marked white group.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, moves like A, when black plays a move at A, it's going to be pretty forcing. So that's going to help black make shape in the center of the board. And so white plays here. And for the time being, I've captured these three marked stones in the center. So that's the profit I got from playing that move that I'm saying was bad. I'll mark it. This move on the left side here, which was a mistake. But the profit I'm getting is capturing these three stones. So there are pros to cons to a lot of moves. That they're just choices that you make.
Right.
So there was a good side to it that I was maybe thinking was it wasn't as good as I was thinking it was.
Mm.
And black is playing very tightly here. Of course, black sort of needs to add that stone to the to that upper side group that black has. But it was when black played here that I sort of thought again, because if black was behind, you wouldn't see black playing a tight move like that.
Mm.
Black would try to squeeze out of the position. And so it was kind of a signal to me when black played here that although I thought that the game was going okay for me, I got the impression that my opponent wasn't agreeing with that. That he thought he had a good game. So, so it sort of made me think again.
Yeah.
And there also is, I've marked at A, black still has the potential to play a move at A later on. And so there's some aji with those marked stones there. So I cut here. Now this is a move that I'm sort of proud of. It turned out that I found exactly a very similar move in an AI game just after I played this move.
Oh, cool.
So just a few days after this. So it's as if I had played an AI move on my own without getting the hint.
But you're saying you found the AI move after
I played it, so I didn't see it beforehand.
So you did play it on your own.
It was yeah, I played it on my own.
Right.
And the
So
meaning
you're trying to tell
behind
us
this,
you're an AI?
no, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not going to tell you that. No. The idea behind this move is white is trying to get either up the upper side or the right side. White's trying to make some territory, and depending on how black handles this stone, white's going to get more territory than if white had just crawled on the third line. Like if white crawls on the third line, the best white can expect is to crawl along the third line, just getting 2 points with each move, right? So when black takes the stone, white plays Atari here. Definitely is not going to escape. This would be bad. Black would just squeeze, and this would be self-defeating. So that's not what white is trying to do.
Right. Thank you.
If black connects here, then I'm going to cut again, and now we can see white's getting a territory on the fourth line on the upper side.
That's nice.
And you can, that black shape is sort of clumped up and wasted. So instead, black captures the one stone, and now white's getting to surround the right side on the fourth line. And this is, not only is it a better territory than the third line, it also gives me a stronger position with which to attack black in the lower right area of the board. So I'm talking about this black group. That with the stone on the fourth line, there's more potential for me to cut that black group off. And so it's an efficient way to surround the right side. And so this is caught up, for the time being, if we ignore the fact that black has some potential territory on the lower side, this has caught me up in territory.
Right, I was thinking it feels, yeah, I was just going to ask you about how those.
Yeah, well, black can squeeze white here, but the trade-off is that I get the force here once. And so this is a pretty big move towards the corner. So it's not really a big deal when I get the force with that jump there. And white's alive on the side. And so that side territory has gotten smaller, but my corner territory has gotten a little bigger. So that was an even trade. And so, but now when black plays here, like I was saying, white caught up. But the moment black plays here, and actually in the SDA file, I marked out a borderline for that black territory. And I must have made a count. I forget what I said, but it's going to be a black win. Like white has to catch up a lot still. And I don't really have much space to catch up with. Like there's no space. Looks like it's going to turn into a white territory. So my game plan from here on has to be that if black surrounds that territory on the marked line, then I'm going to try to have to set up an attack against black in the lower right corner, because that is the one weak black group. But I also have to worry about the fact that there's an invasion at A and a potential move at B that could cause some trouble in the center. So there's more problems that I have than the good news is. So
it looks difficult.
It's difficult, still difficult for me. So this move is reinforcing white on the lower side and is sort of threatening black in the lower right corner. And that's a good amount of space there in the lower right, you might say the quarter of the board. And it's a position where it's sort of hard to read out what exactly is going to happen if white goes after that black group. In the game, black starts to make eyes with this. And in the game, black plays this peep. And this is where things start to go bad for black. This peep was maybe a pretty important mistake, because I answered it here, and this exchange of A for B actually weakened black's group in the lower right, the marker.
Sure.
Black is going to gain some territory here with this exchange, but you can see I'm playing with this Atari here from above. Again, I'm playing to increase my influence in the center, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on black in the lower right corner now. So black's not going to be able to finish surrounding that territory on the lower side now. So I would say that black should not have played this move, and should have just. And this is actually a perfect timing for black to play here, and force white. Again, as I was saying earlier in the game, this exchange here has taken away white's eye space on the lower side. So Now when what black plays here, white probably has to answer underneath. And then I would just continue surrounding the lower side if I was black, or at least this is the variation I worked out after the game. Black has a potential to live on the right side. If black plays one more move on the right side, black's going to have a living shape. But if white goes after it, then with the exchange, with that stone at A, I think black's going to be able to live in the center.
Just play calmly, and it should be pretty solid, right?
And at this point, with that lower side, all of it a black territory, white does have to go after the black group. Right. But I would not be confident in trying to kill it. Right, and like there's so much space there that I wasn't able to make a diagram for you beyond this.
Wow.
But I would say it's pretty hard to read out. But I would say it looks like black's going to live. I couldn't find any successful.
I mean, I think you can just say in general that if your plan of winning depends on killing a group,
you're in danger already.
It's a problem plan, right?
Yeah, it's not a plan that a professional will be happy with.
Right.
Like usually we want to be able to win with territory.
Exactly.
Killing groups is pretty difficult.
Yeah, we saw that in your last game with Rin Kai Ho, but that was not your plan.
It wasn't my plan. It was easier in that game because I started out with a potential lead in territory, and so my opponent couldn't. My opponent had a lot of chances to live.
Right.
But just chose to die, you might say.
Right. It was his choice.
So it's a lot more difficult when you can't catch up in territory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this exchange really put the pressure on black. And it looks like his game plan was to avoid this variation where he has to make a life. Instead, his plan is to gain a little territory here with this exchange, and now he's going to just make life. This is a life on the right side.
Right.
And so his idea was to add a move to the right side and allow me into the lower side. And he thought that this was going to be good enough.
I haven't read it, but I don't think so. Right? It's too much.
He had his ideas, and I made a mistake by jumping in immediately. So this is a point where the game is sort of seesawing, going back and forth.
Yeah.
Because, in actuality, his plan was wrong, and this was my chance to win the game. If I had started from the right side, I had to fix the shape a little bit more. So I start with the cut here. And this is a good chance to show you the tessuji that black uses to make life. That black can play here, and black is alive on the side. After this, I can force with this. Obviously, cutting with sente would be too big, so black connects. I force again with this. And again, it turns out that cutting on the fourth line here would still be sente. Let's just do that one. Like if black plays something here, then this sequence would kill the black group because black has no way to fill a dame now. So white would just capture the whole group. And so black has to answer again. So what I had to do to win the game, I had to play this exchange from here to here, forcing this, and then I could jump in. And so it was very careless of me to jump in immediately. And this is a point where the game sort of, before that, black was winning. When black played this way, and I get the chance to jump in here, I should be winning. But my mistake of forgetting to play this exchange or not even thinking of it, it gave black the advantage again. So this is a point where the game is going back and forth. It's actually very close in any case, but it's going back and forth, just a couple of points each way. And so what happens now is black gets to invade here. So this was also a part of my opponent's game plan. He had the idea that he could live first, and then this invasion here would be effective. But as I was showing you, if I had played this whole exchange first, then that would just not work. Like with this exchange on the board, black doesn't have an invasion anymore. Gotcha. So this would erase the threat of an invasion.
Wow.
So it was, we both made a mistake here. And now I'm in trouble again. And now I actually found that move. I figured out that I wanted to play here, but it's not going to be forcing this time because the lower side is really very important now. It's more heated up. So if I had played it immediately, then black would have had to answer with the connection on the fourth line. No, that's the third line. But he doesn't have to now. Like if black answers this, it's going to be the same story. White's going to play here. And this is going to be good enough for me to, white will win SMAI if black plays at C. And black can actually live on the side, but this is not going to be very much of a success for black because black's losing a lot towards the left. And you can see that white's going to be getting some territory in the center of the board. So this is a win for white. But the timing of this move here, it was too late. Earlier, it would have, just to take another look at that. At this point, this center area is going to be a huge territory if white gets the cut here. So black has to answer it. Whereas in the game, it's not working that way because there's all this stuff happening on the lower side, which means the center is going to be maybe nothing. And in fact, the way black plays it, the center is going to disappear.
Wow.
And so black pushes out here, and I have to worry about my group in the lower right. So I capture the two marked stones. And again, we can see that black is playing aggressively to move out into the center. And all of my stones here, the white stones are not so settled either. Like these two stones are not really properly connected to the center group.
Nope.
And I have to worry about my group in the corner. So white has some issues to deal with here also. It's not as if I can just go out 100% and attack. So I protect the right side. And black cuts here. So this is a branching point here where playing the connection underneath might have been a closer game. But I'm thinking at this point that although this is a lot more complicated than the variation I was showing you before, where I said white was going to win.
Yeah.
I still think that it looks like a winning variation for white still. And this is the game move. This is the move that maybe black should have played. I'm going to show you what I think happens. White plays this way and can move into the black territory a little bit. And it's going to be a relatively close game. And actually, let's see, I went this far. And white's going to add another stone to the center and get some territory in the center. And it's going to be a really difficult endgame. Like there's a lot of stuff in the center that it's really difficult to explain it with just one diagram. And I'm not sure I really have it correct, but I think white has a very small advantage.
Wow.
At this point. The game move, black cut here, a more aggressive move, but I get to cut black off on the side with this move. So it's a completely different variation.
Wow.
This is actually pretty close too. So black jumps out, and black doesn't have a second eye yet, but if black plays at A, black's going to have a second eye.
Sure.
So it's not going to die, is the verdict. Yeah. So I jump in here. This is a forcing exchange.
And I'm having trouble keeping track of who's ahead now. It feels
really
like it just keeps going back and forth, right?
It's really close right now.
Yeah.
And it still depends on what's going to happen in the center. I play this. This is again a forcing exchange. And finally, I return to the center to attack black a little bit. And I get to, I shouldn't have played that so early. I lost a fraction of a point there, but never mind. And I get to play this move in the center, which
solves that problem.
It solves that problem with the black move at B, and also sets up a peep at C, which is going to reduce black's territory in that area.
I've been wondering about the shape for that upper black group for so long because I mean it's not killable, but it's got weaknesses, right?
Well, black has an eye here, which is probably going to remain being an eye throughout the game. That's an eye that's probably not going to go away. Black has a potential eye here, and black has some potential for an eye in this area. So it's reduced after white plays here at A. It's sort of reduced to one real eye and maybe two potential eyes, which is good enough, but just barely alive.
Okay.
Before that, it had a bit more eye space.
But doesn't that give white some advantage for making a few points, maybe?
You're going to see that happen.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that's one of the things. And also, of course, white A is cutting off the lower side black group. So black has to add a stone.
Right.
Black's playing black's getting some extra territory with the exchange. taking away some white territory, you might say. And then with this move, black is alive. And so I play the peep here, and I get to play the hane.
Yep.
And this is a little Tetsuji that reduces black's territory a little bit. And then the important thing is that black never had a chance to capture that white stone with this move, which usually would be a forcing move for black. It would be a sente yose.
Sure.
Sente endgame. But I got to this point earlier. And so once all of this fighting on the lower side started, black never had a chance to play that exchange. But this move from white, when white plays it, it actually is a forcing move. Yeah. Because if white plays it A next, then I don't think the black group is actually going to die, but it's going to be very painful for black.
And it's losing points for black too.
Right. So black has to answer. This is actually a threatening move. Like if white plays away, let's see how black can play this way, and this would be a disaster for white. So the left side would be cut off.
Oh.
Yeah. So that would be bad.
Did not see that coming. Wow.
And so so that's what I'm doing when I answer here. I'm getting rid of that. And I'm still, when I play this connection, it puts these two stones in damezumari. And so that changes the number of eyes black has. That black still has only one eye for sure in that area. So black still has to answer. Black ends up answering. He still does some stuff. He's catching up a point or so before he adds the stone. But he eventually has to add a stone there to make a living shape.
Right.
And so I got a lot out of that. And the most important thing is that I got to take here with sente. And then I crawled here. This is what they call a thick yose. Like it's probably bigger with this move. It's probably a bigger move to cut here and capture the one black stone. But there's a lot of extra potential added on to this move because once I play this move, I'm going to get a forcing move at C, which is it makes a difference of about 3 points when I can play that as a forcing. And of course, also I get the hane at D, which is going to be a forcing endgame move. And so even though I allow black to play this point, I'm getting enough back in return. And so I play this forcing exchange. And so that more or less ends the game. Yeah. So after that, it's pretty straightforward. And I should have won by 2.5 points, but there was a little mistake on both sides actually, but it was happening here. I'll just go into that finally. In the final stage of the game, it's pretty unusual that a pro will make a mistake at this stage of this move was actually, all of the moves, technically, they're supposed to be about the same size. They're all either 1 point in sente or 2 points in gote.
Right.
But this move, if I play here, this move has a little extra value. Because in this game, any stuff that happens down here on the lower side, there's this move here, but this area is going to be pretty worthless. Like this is an area that white's going to be able to settle with sente. And so the only big endgame moves, I'll mark them with triangles, are the moves here in the center, and this move here, which is 2 points because it forces white to put a stone in white's territory. So there's this 2 point move and this 2 point move here in the center. What happens is if I play here, then that makes the two triangles miai. It makes them interchange because if black plays here, I still have a point there. So what black should have done is with this move, it was a chance for black to play once here, and I would answer here, and then black can force with this one too, and I would answer here, and then black could play here, and then you would see that the two triangles would be miai.
Right.
This one and this one. And so that's two point moves. And as I was saying, the square here, this move, this is an area that white's going to be settling with sente anyway.
Right.
So it would have made a 1 point difference. But I didn't do it right because I started with this move instead of this move. And then my opponent messed up too because he should have started, in this case, now this is ceased to be the key point. And he's supposed to play he's supposed to play here first.
Yes.
In which case, then he would be able to force it.
Right. Right.
And so in the end, I get to play. I get to make Mii again of these 2 points. This point and this point. There's two moves that are worth make a difference of 2 points.
So you guys were doing that thing where AlphaGo throws away some points at the end because it doesn't make a difference to the result.
We were just messing up in the final stages of secondary. We were in overtime for a long time.
Okay, all right.
And so and of course I knew I was winning, and so there was a kind of AlphaGo-like thing that I was not doing on purpose, but I was comfortable with the knowledge that I was winning by 2.5 points. And it just happened to change into 3.5 points because my opponent made this mistake.
So the lead really, I mean, Black. Bottom line is Black had a lot of chances to win this game.
Yeah, actually, I think I started fairly well, but as I was talking about the way I lived with this group on the left side instead of playing away from it, that was a point where I had a chance to pull ahead in territory,
right,
and retain what I think I had an advantage up to that point.
Right, but after
that, Black, the rest of the game, into the end game, Black had a lot of chances to win the game. And then there was this fight in the lower right area where we both made mistakes. And so the game was going back and forth.
Wow. So really, really interesting because, I mean, you really had to work after that, missing that thing. It feels like White really had a hard slog there. And then also missing the sequence on the...
Yeah, well, people could just scroll back to the point where I was saying Black was ahead. And you can see that this area here was looking like Black territory, and I didn't have so much territory on the right side either. So you can see that I've caught up in territory to a great deal.
So this is just a terrific game for, I think, fighting spirit on both sides, and really fascinating to see how you can, even if you're behind, you stick with it and things happen.
Yeah.
As long as you're not playing AlphaGo.
Yeah, things don't happen with AlphaGo though.
Well, Michael, I gotta say, it's a real treat, and to see another game against a top pro. Very best of luck. We'll continue to follow you in that tournament as you go. And of course, one last thing before we go, I do want to give another big thanks to all our AGA members who make videos like this possible. And if you'd like to support this content as well, and we hope you do, please consider joining the American Go Association at usgo.org. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all next week.